Let's talk about Jordan and childhood trauma, finding its way into the workplace. Jordan is not this person's real name, and but was a military member. Jordan and I worked together. Jordan worked for someone else, but there were certain things that we needed for one another, and sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it was every couple of weeks, and sometimes about once a month or so over the period of time we worked together. There were certain tasks that needed to be done. And it just seems like Jordan would, at certain point, would just withdraw where we needed someone to really be more assertive and to dig into things. Jordan would withdraw and just would not be able to get there. And Jordan's boss was beginning to get very, very frustrated. And somehow that kind of conversation kind of came over to me. So it's not like I brought it up or anything like that. The conversation that I just opened up kind of the moment for something to happen. And that conversation happened. And I found out that Jordan had a particular incident that happened as a child, as a young child. I believe as a young teenager. It was actually something that was very positively received in the community. Jordan was considered a hero. Jordan did this heroic thing. But that heroic thing was something that was very, very traumatic to Jordan, and it was never discussed. That, at least, it was not relayed to me, rather, that anyone had ever addressed it as far as this kid had done something to protect their family, accolades, but no one really addressed what Jordan had done. And it stuck in Jordan. And at some point, it started causing a problem. When Jordan told me this, I just kind of listened. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know whether or not Jordan went and got additional help. But just after that conversation, Jordan's composure changed and Jordan's performance changed. And I don't know eventually if Jordan fell back into it. But as I left and went to another duty station, Jordan was clicking along pretty good. And Jordan's boss wasn't having such a problem. Okay. So that was one instance that where it was a positive thing. Many people saw this as a positive thing, but there was something, but it affected Jordan in such a way that it ended up being a hindrance to him. So, not necessarily everything that happens in a childhood has to be something bad or perceived as something bad. It could be something perceived as something good, but it is still traumatic to this child. It goes unresolved, and then in some cases, and it manifests itself in some way in the workplace that has to be addressed. And in this case, we had a positive outcome. Okay, this next case, I helped the author craft this short ebook. It's a true story, and there's a positive outcome. And I'm going to let you know that as we go over some of the text, there's nothing vulgar, there's nothing profane, but it is powerful. And it is, I would say, graphically explained. There's no blood or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about that. But it relays exactly what was going on with this particular subject. So I'm just letting you know up front. But it has a very positive end. The subject is well, the subject is healthy, the subject is living a life that a lot of people, I would say, may envy. But leaving the gravesite, the negative and positive sides of Will, the event happened as a child, preteen. The event, while has its own nuance, it's not something that's rare. It's something actually that's kind of common at a Southern funeral, especially a Black funeral in those days. But there was something that happened with this particular, as you can see, a young child, female, that, and yes, she considers herself a female, if you're asking and want to know. But it happened in such a way that it left an indelible impression on her. And she made a decision as a preteen, really what most people would consider a horrible decision that could have ended drastically, and almost executed on that decision some 20 years later. So, just die. Cancer, pancreatitis, the diseases racked my body. A pending divorce, all in the last few months. At 27 years old, my body, soul, and spirit waste away in this hospital bed at Brooke Army Medical Center, San Antonio, Texas. Family, doctors, nurses, no one can pull me back. Prayer is just not a thing that exists in me. I shut off the world and encouragement that comes from anyone. I willfully cut myself off physically and emotionally from all the people who love me or are connected to me. That includes my 2 children, a 4-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. I am alone, just like I planned to be. A dead mother for Christmas, 1995. That's what I'm delivering on Santa's behalf. At least everyone will be spared the horror of watching me die. My temples are sunken, my body stinks, my room stinks. Death hovers immediately outside my window. My next step is to stop breathing. It was all but done. And I did change the tense there to let people know that it was all but done, but something significant happened that changed her particular mind. But let's talk about the backstory just a little bit, more of the immediate backstory. She was an employee. She was a mother. So it affected all her peers at work. It affected the nature and of her work. And it affected the doctors at the hospital. It affected the nurses at the hospital. It sure enough affected her children. It affected her mother, her father. So this was a decision that basically that no one knew she had made. But yet, as a child, she made this decision and almost completed it if it not had been for her 2 kids doing something amazing. Is that they came to her hospital bedside, and despite the sight of what they saw, they addressed their mother. One of them got in the bed with her mother, and it really changed the situation. So like I said, it's a great and powerful story. It inspires me every time I read it. And trust me, in the editing process, I probably read it about 50 or 100 times. So these are the types of situations that make it into the workplace, and that we share that in your classrooms as well. So if there are other situations or things that you want to share, or any comments, anytime you want to share a comment, just put it in the comment section. If there are things that you don't feel comfortable for sharing publicly, but you actually can share, you can send an email. You can send it to, it's simply no spoon, no box at gmail.com. That's no spoon, no box at gmail.com. Some of you may know that, we can't spoon feed the people that we're educating, and we can't put them in the box as that, but don't put them in a box either. It's find ways to actually help them explore, to help them discover. And that's our philosophy. So as well. So no spoon, no box at gmail.com. It would be great to hear from you. If there are things that you can share actually in the comments that you can share and authorized to share for public, please do that. We look forward to hearing from you. So again, these are things that we share in commonality with your classrooms, Childhood trauma is a real thing. It's something that whatever strategies that we may be able to, help with from the workplace standpoint to kind of help in some way to help educators understand the problems that we're seeing, we're willing to do that. We're not psychologists, counselors, or anything like that. We don't have any of that capability. We can't help you with that. We can't help the students with that. But what we can do is talk about the types of things that we're seeing in the workplace that are connected to childhood trauma. Last thing is productive struggle. And I'm just going to take a very short break and come back and talk about productive struggle and ambiguity becoming a part of productive struggle.